Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace. So in this session, we'll try to make some more progress, cover a few more verses. We'll put up questions. If there's some time at the end of this session, you can have one or two questions, and after that there's a long Q&A session after dinner. So we can reserve questions till then also. The subject right now, what's going on is, the author is carefully distinguishing the I sense with which we are all familiar, the ego, from pure consciousness. That's our real nature. Before I start, an issue which I wanted to touch upon, and somebody at lunchtime also mentioned to me, is that would the I, the ego, appear to the enlightened person? Would the enlightened person also have an ego? Many people think not, but that's not true. You just have to look at the evidence of an enlightened person, anyone we consider to be enlightened. Do they use the word I? Often they do. Do they use it just like we do? Yes, it appears to be so. I am talking, I am walking, Sri Ramakrishna would come down from experience of samadhi, and often he would say, I want a glass of water, or I'll drink water. Ramana Maharshi sometimes uses I. So, what is the difference between the way an enlightened person would use the word I and the way we use it? Panchadashi actually deals with this. Vidyananda Swami's Panchadashi. There, the discussion is there that the word I, it has three meanings. So, a word has a meaning. If I say pen, pen is a word. What does it mean? This. It means this. If I say the word body, body is a word. What does it mean? This. When we use the word I, what does it mean? There are three meanings, three ways in which it is used. One way is used by us, and two ways by the enlightened one. So what is the way we use the word I, the term I? What does it mean to us? It means this. Body-mind. I mean, causal body I'm taking also. But basically body-mind, this personality. And by the way, so as I said, this is an analytic diagram too, just for understanding and separating. It's not that the body is here and the mind is somewhere floating up there. It's not like that. But when we say I, we mean this. I means this body-mind. We don't think more about it. Just this person. That's how we all use it. How does the enlightened person use it? For the enlightened person, that one truly knows I am Brahman. I refers to Brahman. I am Brahman. The enlightened person knows the meaning of that sentence. Technically, I would not refer to Brahman because no word can refer to Brahman. But points to Brahman, let us say. I points to Brahman. And that's the first use of the word, of the term I by the enlightened one. The second use is again to body-mind. So the enlightened one can say, I will drink water, I am talking to you. Sri Ramakrishna would say, get a carriage, I will go to Calcutta. Who will go to Calcutta? Brahman will go to Calcutta, or the body-mind of Sri Ramakrishna will go to Calcutta. So that person is going to go to Calcutta. So just in the way we use it, the enlightened person uses it also. However, there is a difference. The difference is this. In the sense that we use it, and that secondary sense in which the enlightened people use that word I. The secondary sense in which the enlightened people use the word I is to refer to the body-mind for the purposes of transaction with us. for the purposes of dealing with this world in a transactional way. They don't seriously mean that they are body-mind. They are very clearly aware. And this is a key to understanding the enlightened being, enlightened person. So, while they may say, so are you hungry? And the enlightened person may say, I am hungry. Give me something to eat. And then if you push it, are you really hungry? Really, really hungry? Is that the ultimate truth about it? They say, no, of course not. I am the witness. And this phenomenon of hunger has appeared in this tummy. In the body appears, mind appears, and the feeling of hunger also appears. But they are appearances. I am limitless existence, consciousness, bliss. How can I be hungry? Hungry for what? I have eaten up the whole universe. Sureshwar Acharya says, with reference to an Upanishadic text, when you can eat up the whole universe, when you know that you are enlightened, that the whole universe you put in your tummy, basically you are existence itself, the entirety appears in you. Anyway, so these are the three senses in which the word I is used. One, by us, referring to this body-mind, without any hesitation, there is the body-mind. Two ways in which the enlightened person uses. One, very clearly the enlightened one knows I am Brahman, Satchidananda, I am existence, consciousness, bliss. Like Lakshmidhara Kavi often says, how am I not Brahman? I am Brahman. So I is Brahman, that is very clear. Secondarily, by the enlightened one, to refer to the body-mind just like us, but they know it is only for transactional purposes. The mind and the body, we are not really mind and body, they are appearances. However, they can transact with us just like us. How much so? So for example, how it helps us. This helps us to understand how an enlightened person behaves, feels, what is it like to be enlightened. So there's a classic story about Sri Ramakrishna who was dying of cancer, terminal cancer, throat cancer. A doctor told me it's one of the nastier forms of cancer. For example, you can't swallow anymore. So all the spit pours out of you continuously. You have to keep wiping your mouth. It's very painful and so on. So Sri Ramakrishna, emaciated, is lying in the Kashipur garden house, will pass away in a few months' time. His disciple, Kavi, who later became Swami Turiyananda, the great Vedantist himself, he comes and he asks Sri Ramakrishna, how are you today? And Sri Ramakrishna replies, it hurts. This tumor here, it hurts. I can't eat. Then Hari says to him, for God knows what reason, he says to Sri Ramakrishna, but I see that you are in great bliss. Now see, at that moment, the first report was absolutely true. Here is the pain, and I feel it, and it's a great discomfort, and I can't eat. However, when he says, but I see that you are in great bliss, God knows what he saw, but Sri Ramakrishna's response is interesting. I see that you are in great bliss. And Sri Ramakrishna said, oh, the rascal has found me out. He laughed. That means he's got me. He understands my state. He knows what it is like to be me. He has found me out. The rascal has found me out. In Bengali, so, what does it mean? How is he in great bliss? Was he pretending to be in pain? Is he pretending that he cannot eat? No, all that is true. Just as any cancer patient is suffering, he is also suffering. And yet he is not. This is the difference. I am in great bliss refers to this. I was reading, just connecting this. St. Francis, one of his brothers, I forget his name, monk, he was always seen to be full of joy. And all the time, overflowing with happiness and fulfillment. And somebody asked him, how are you like this? And he said, I have found that which is this unending joy. So this, he has found this, he knows I am this. From this perspective, what is the body and its cancer and its pain also? Their appearances in consciousness and nothing but the same consciousness. It's appearing in all these ways. Even the pain is not really a pain for it from that perspective. So this is an insight into the psychology of enlightenment. For the cancer patient, I am in pain, I can't eat, that's it. That's it, that's full stop. Everything else, you are Brahman and all of that, it's theory. But for the enlightened person, it's not theory, it's an absolute fact. Always easily, effortlessly available to that person. So this is freedom while living in the body. While everything is happening to the body, old age, failing mental faculties, pain in the body, cancer, and eventual death, all of that, he says, I'm in a great place. The professor Arindam Chakravarti, who is a philosopher, he said, his guru, who was a great Vaishnava master, many years ago in India. So he said, in the last years of my guru, he was very sick, and we used to take care of him, he was dying. He had bed sores. Sometimes patients who are bedridden develop bed sores, and they have to be cleaned and treated. The doctor would come, and the guru was a tall man, so two of us used to support him while he stood, and the doctor would clean the wounds. And when the spirit, the disinfectant with the cotton would touch the wounds, open wounds, he would giggle. And the doctor would say, tell us where it hurts. Don't laugh, because I don't know whether it's in pain or not. Because he laughed and he said, what fun, what fun. Now, how do you interpret that? Alright. That is possible only when you have found a footing, a secure place, safe from pain, safe from suffering. From that perspective, the suffering is still there, but you are safe from it. Hari Maharaj himself, Swami Turiyananda, in his last years, there are similar examples about him. So he has got this operation to be done on his finger, and the surgeon comes and says, Swami, I have to lance it. It's going to be a deep cut, so we need to put anesthesia. And the Swami said, no, you can operate, just tell me when you are going to cut. You don't need anesthesia. Are you sure it's going to hurt a lot? The Swami said, yes. And they did it, and there's so many witnesses, and it happened more than once. Multiple operations were performed without any anesthesia. Swami was not in meditation or samadhi. He was just in the waking state and talking with people and smiling as if he doesn't feel it. But the more interesting thing happened the next day, when the doctor came to change the dressing and clean the wound. The moment he touched that place, the Swami shouted in pain, oh, what are you doing? And the doctor was taken aback. But Swami, yesterday in the operation, I know this hurts, but yesterday in the operation, we actually cut, you didn't feel anything, you didn't react, and now you are shouting in pain. And the Swami said, in exasperation, I tell you in Bengali and translate, Bolbe to, katar aage, chor aage bolbe to, ami mon tule nita. You should tell me before you touch that I will remove my mind from there. So easily, remove my mind from there. Now that removing my mind from there can be done in two ways. One is the yogic way, where you focus so deeply that there is no more cognitive bandwidth left over for resisting pain. Concentration. If you concentrate intensely on something, other things will not register for the time being. That's one way. The other way is to note your real nature from that perspective. The body is an object, the knife is an object, the wound is an object, and when the knife cuts through the wound or cleans the wound, the flash of pain is an object. It's a subtle object in the mind. The registration of pain. Cautionary note, don't try it. Until that use of the I is clear to you. I am Brahman and I am body-mind. This difference is clear to you. And there is this funny story, I've repeated it many times, but I don't know if it's true. It might just be a story. So there was a monk, apparently, who was going to actually have an operation on his hand. And the doctor said, I'm going to cut. We'll apply a local anesthetic. And the monk said, no need. And the doctor said, are you sure? It's going to hurt. And the monk said, yes, it's that, I am the witness consciousness, and this is the body and the mind, and the pain is an object, I am the witness of the pain. You go ahead and do it. The moment the knife touched the skin, he shouted, stop, give me anesthesia. Then the doctor said, all right, that's what I said in the first place, but what happened to your pure consciousness and witness? And The body is an object, pain is an object. He said in Hindi, and I translated it, he said, "Wo sara kitab ka baat kitab mein rahega." In English, all that book knowledge remained in the book. It's not real, I want anesthesia. So unless this is done, this breakthrough is done, unless you remove the veiling power of ignorance, unless it's a living reality for you, until that time it will seem theoretical, especially under pressure. Somebody asked, so this is, the Advaita Vedanta sometimes is very clear and one feels one has got it. So how do you know if the realization is real or false? Life will teach you. When there is physical pain, when there is failure in life, when there is loneliness, when people behave nastily to you, see how your mind reacts. Do you say you are in great bliss? Can you giggle? Or it feels very bad? And all this knowledge seems theoretical then. So that's the difference. All right. Now we were doing verse number 9. He started distinguishing pure consciousness from the ego, the sense of I am. That he will continue in the 10th and a few more verses. So let's do that. Sukte ahamina drishyante, sukte ahamina drishyante, dukkha dosha pravrittayaha, dukkha dosha pravrittayaha, ata tasyeva samsaro, ata tasyeva samsaro, name samsartri sakshinaha, name samsartri sakshinaha. When I is sound asleep, sorrowful and defective appearances are not seen. Hence samsara belongs to it, not to me who am the witness of samsara. So, what is he saying here? Supte ahami. When the ego falls asleep. When does it fall asleep? In deep sleep. In the waking it is awake and is centered in this body mind. I am this, I am awake. When you fall asleep, it goes into a dream state and the ego is still active. It has experiences, dream experiences. But at one point, it all shuts down, for a while at least. Deep sleep. Sleep, scientists call it what? Deep delta or something like that, some name is there. So deep sleep. And they have seen this patterns of the brain, it changes from rapid eye movement sleep, REM sleep to non-REM sleep. And all these things you can detect from outside, it seems, whether the person is dreaming or is in deep sleep. In dreams, it seems the eyeballs, under the closed eyes, the eyeballs move rapidly. Rapid eye movement, that means you are seeing actually. And in deep sleep, so in dream sleep, the eyeballs will move. That's called REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. And in deep sleep, it's non-REM sleep. The eyeballs become fixed, they don't move. If that is the proof of dreaming, then even ants dream. Because I read, there was a paper called, the ants have what is called RAM sleep, not REM sleep, rapid eye movement, rapid antenna movement. So they suddenly stop, but the antenna keep vibrating. That means they are having a little ant dream. They were dreaming of sugar or something like that. They have this micro little sleeps and with dreams also. Probably. Now, then the I gets merged in the causal body. That's deep sleep. Sushupti, blank. Supte ahami. When the I goes to sleep, nadrishyante dukkha dosha pravrittayaha. The samsara is not experienced anymore. As long as the I is active in the waking state and also in the dream state. One can have good dreams and nightmares and all of that, and in the waking state one can have pleasant experiences, unpleasant experiences. That is samsara. Dukkha dosha pravrittaya. Dukkha, suffering, dosha, defects, problems with the world, with my relationships, with the body, with the mind, problems. Pravritti, all kinds of activities, All of these are seen when the I is active. When the I is semi-active in dreams, even then samsara is seen. Good and bad experiences continue. But when the I disappears, it falls asleep. Disappears means falls asleep. Samsara also disappears. And therefore, it belongs to the I. Samsara belongs to the I, not to me. Because in the waking state, here, in the waking state, pure consciousness is there, ego is there, samsara is there. In the deep sleep state, pure consciousness is there, ego is not there, samsara is not there. Therefore, by what's called the method of agreement and disagreement, in Sanskrit, anvaya vyatireka. By that we see that the presence of I, it goes with the presence of samsara. The absence of the I goes with the absence of samsara. In all cases, the presence of I and samsara is illumined by consciousness right now. The presence of I and samsara in dreams is illumined by consciousness. The absence of the I and samsara is illumined by consciousness. I, the pure consciousness, exists in all three states, but the ego doesn't exist in all three states. Samsara doesn't exist in all three states. Ego and samsara go together. Samsara belongs to the ego, not to me. Therefore, I cannot be the ego. Even when ego and samsara appear, I am free of samsara and ego. I just illumine them. Their appearances. Just like when a movie is playing on a screen, the screen is free of the movie. You don't have to switch off the movie to free the screen from the movie. You can play the movie. Similarly, to escape from samsara, you don't have to fall asleep or go into samadhi. You can be in samsara, in the waking state, you're still free of it. You're still free of samsara. And do you understand how we can be free of samsara even while experiencing it? Because you are asanga, detached. Samsara plays on you, but you are not sticky. It doesn't stick. There is a time when you exist, but samsara can disappear. In deep samadhi, in deep sleep. Atas tasyeva samsara. Samsara therefore belongs to ego. Name, not to me. Who am I? This word is very loaded, and it gives you a key to enlightenment. Samsartri sakshini, sakshi. Samsartri sakshina of to me, of me. Samsara does not belong. Samsara is not mine. But who am I? I am the witness of the samsartri. Samsartri means samsari, the one who travels through samsara, the one who undergoes birth and death. Samsartri is the one who goes from lifetime to lifetime. Who goes from lifetime to lifetime? Who dies and who is born? It is the ego which experiences body death. It is the ego which experiences body birth. And it is the ego which experiences various bodily experiences in samsara. It is samsartri or samsari. I am not samsari. The body will die, the body is born, it will age and die one day. The ego will leave this body along with the rest of the subtle body, and it will inhabit another body. It will be born in some other baby, as some other child somewhere. So it travels. This traveling is in Sanskrit called samsarana, going through samsara, whirling around in the cycle of birth and death. Ego, not me. I am the ever-present consciousness which enables this samsara. Without me, none of this would appear. Do you see? No. I am the movie screen on which this is playing, but I am free of it, even while it's playing. And who moves through, who travels through the movie? The hero, and the sorrows and struggles of the hero, and then the final victory of the main character, or the defeat, tragedy or comedy, whatever it is. All of that is this one, not me. But are the two separate then? Not separate. Always remember this. Advaita Vedanta doesn't say the two are separate. There is one. It is this one and appearing as this. This is independent of that, but that is not independent of this. Ego is not independent of consciousness. None of these are independent of consciousness. They cannot exist without this. Just like the movie cannot exist without the screen. The universe and the body, mind, person, ego cannot exist without you. But you are quite happily. In fact, you are right now existing without the ego, body, mind and universe. Because they are appearances, they are not real. Even now you are free of it. The unreal cannot affect the real. Shankaracharya puts it this way. All the water in the mirage is not enough to wet one grain of sand of the desert. The mirage you see out there in the hot desert, shimmering, looks like water, but if you go close, not one grain will be wet. All the water in the desert, because the water belongs to a fictional reality. What is in Sanskrit called pratibhasika. And the pratibhasika means illusionary, appearance. And the desert belongs to what is called a transactional reality, vyavaharika. Transactional reality is a deeper state of reality. Pratibhasika is an appearance of that. Just like your waking is transactional, your dream is pratibhasika, illusory. So the transactional will not be affected by the illusory. But similarly, the ultimate reality, paramarthika, will also not be affected by the transaction. What is the doorway to enlightenment? So what is the relationship between me and this? I am the witness of that I. The way to this doorway is this. Since I am the witness of this I, whenever I feel the I am standing and talking. Let me narrow down my awareness to this feeling of I, and then note what is experiencing this I. You will never objectify it, because it's you, the consciousness. It's right there. This phrase, witness of the samsari, samsatri, witness of the samsari, the one who experiences samsara, that is a doorway to enlightenment. One second. We will not take questions now. Hold on, because it interrupts progress. At the end of the class or in the next time. Witness of samsari. Also, one more thing I wanted to say here. It was that. So what's the point here? Brahman is asamsari. Brahman does not go through samsara. I am now the witness of the samsara and samsari. Therefore, I do not go through samsara. Therefore, I am Brahman. That was his original point. Then next. Now, a more subtle development of the same point. I am the witness of the samsari and the samsara. More development of the same point. Supta suptin na janati. Supta suptin na janati. Na supte swapna jagaro. Na supte swapna jagaro. Jagrat swapna sushuptinam. Jagrat swapna sushuptinam. Sakshyato tadashaha. Sakshyato tadashaha. The one who sleeps does not know deep sleep. For the one who sleeps not, dream and waking don't exist. Hence I am beyond these states, the witness of waking, dreaming and deep sleep. He's really cute that way. The little game he plays here. See, what does he say? He's saying, who sleeps? Clearly the ego sleeps. Because notice, I am awake, I had such dreams, and there was a time when there was deep sleep, I was asleep. Who is that I? The ego. And he says, Supta, Suptin. Supta means the sleeper. Who is the sleeper? The ego goes to sleep. And the ego does not know deep sleep. Right? That's why we feel that in deep sleep there is nothing. Why? Because our whole thing, we operate on the basis of the ego. The ego knows this waking state. See, I can see the cactus, I can see the mountains, I can feel the heat, all of this. This is the ego in the waking state. The ego knows the waking state and all its contents and experiences. The ego also knows the dream state and all the mind-born dreams. But when the ego falls asleep, it feels nothing. So you're in deep sleep, and did you know deep sleep? No. I really don't think so. That's why when the Vedantic argument, deep sleep is illuminated by consciousness, it seems theoretical to us. Why? Because the only kind of knowledge and awareness we are aware of is consciousness reflected in the ego, and that illumined ego experiencing the world. When it disappears, we feel nothing is there. But that nothing of deep sleep is also an experience. If it was not an experience, what would happen is, we would be awake, we would fall asleep and dream, and then we would be awake again. We wouldn't even mention it. But every civilization, in every language, there is mention of deep sleep. I slept like a log. In English, didn't know anything. In Bengali, Ghumiye kada, slept like mud. Why like mud? You have to see Bengal. It's like this, heat like this, but not dry heat. 100 degrees and 100% humidity. So it's like walking into a wall of hot soup. Somebody described it like that. Like a sauna. Yes, walking through sauna all the time. And you can be exhausted just by sleeping. Because you sweat so much. And hence the term, slept like mud. You feel like mud when you wake up. Now, why are these expressions there in every language? And why does even science make a distinction between REM sleep and non-REM sleep? So there is such a phenomenon as deep sleep. How do we know? So we know it because it is revealed to consciousness as such. As just, how is it revealed? Just blankness. Just blankness. See, it functions like this. When consciousness has something to reflect off, objects are presented to it. Then you get specific experiences of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, remembering, desiring, hating, understanding, all of that. Those are specific experiences. But what do I mean by specific? Each distinct from the other, each arising and disappearing. But there is a but if you remove all specific experiences, just blank, consciousness doesn't disappear. It's just that there is no object to illumine. So that blankness is illumined by consciousness. You can see even the blankness is the object there. So that's a unique kind of experience, not the experience mediated by the ego or the mind. It is just the sleeping of the mind which is illumined by deep sleep. Now, he makes a subtle move here, fun move. The ego does not know deep sleep, and yet deep sleep is known. Supti ahamina this is number 11. Supta suptim na janati. Then who knows deep sleep? Pure consciousness. And what about waking and a dream? Who awakes? This is the move. Only the sleeper can awake. Who can wake up? One was fallen asleep. Who fell asleep? The ego. Because the ego didn't know deep sleep, so ego must have been asleep. Then that means it's the ego who woke up. And by extension, it's the ego who dreamt. So the ego wakes up, the ego dreams, and the ego falls asleep. All three belong to the ego, not to me, the witness. He says, Jagrat Swapna Sushuptina Sakshi. I am the witness of waking, dreaming, deep sleep. I. And since I am the witness of waking, dreaming, deep sleep, Atad Dashaha, Dasha means state. Atad Dasha means, Tat Dasha means those states. Atad Dasha means free of those states. Therefore, I am free of waking, dreaming, deep sleep. What's the move here? If you are the witness of something, if you are the, if they come and go, waking, dreaming, deep sleep comes and goes, you are neither the waker, nor the dreamer, nor the deep sleeper. In that case, you are free of them. The one who is involved in waking, dreaming, deep sleep is the ego. In waking, it's the ego who is awake. In dreaming, it's the ego who is the dreamer, and the ego in the dream. And in deep sleep, it's the ego who falls asleep. Waking, dreaming, deep sleep belong to the ego, not to me. I am their witness. Just as every activity, every event in the movie belongs to the actor, the hero, the character, not to the screen. But the screen enables the whole thing to happen. It's not the screen who has the tragedy. It's not the screen who fights with the villains and so on. It's the hero who does it or the character who does it in the movie. But the screen enables it all. Screen, in a sense, is a witness to it all. So here he has made a an important point, that waking, dreaming and deep sleep are states associated with the ego. It's a functioning of the ego and the mind which generate these states. But pure consciousness is ever shining. It's like the sun. Day and night are here for us in the sun. If you go to the sun, no day, no night, or you can say eternal day. Eternal day, it's forever shining. So it's eternal day. One of our Swamis called the Atman the midnight sun. What a beautiful way of describing it. In deep sleep here, or in samadhi, when the whole thing is shut down from your perspective, you don't experience anything, and yet you're blazing with light. Normally our idea of deep sleep is we go here, when we are not aware of this, it seems like black, nothing. But you are blazing with light, and yet it's all dark. Midnight sun. But the midnight sun is not present only in midnight, it's also present in waking and dreaming. It's shining all the time. Then number 12. He develops it further. Vijnana virati sukti, Vijnana virati sukti, Tajjanma swapna jagaro, Tajjanma swapna jagaro, Tatsakshina katham mesyu, Tatsakshina katham mesyu, Nitya jnanasya te trayah, Nitya jnanasya te trayah. The cessation of cognition is deep sleep, its birth is the dream and waking states. How can these three states belong to me, who am their witness, eternally aware? Here you can see again. I am eternally aware, ever shining. And what is waking? Waking is the birth of specific cognitions. He calls it Vijnana. Vijnana. Tajjanma swapna jagaro. He says Vijnana. Vijnana janma. Vijnana means specific knowledge. Specific knowledge means seeing. Seeing the cactus is specific knowledge. Hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, all kinds of experiences which we have when? In waking. And in dreams also. So all kinds of sensory experiences, mental thoughts, feelings, whatever constitutes our whole, the stream of experiences, subjective experiences which we call our life. That's called Vijnana here. The birth of the specific experiences is waking and dreaming. And the cessation of all specific experiences is deep sleep. Vijnana virati sukti. Virati means pause, stop, cease. When all specific experiences cease, I do not see, smell, taste, touch, hear anything. I do not remember anything, feel anything, imagine anything, understand anything. Even eye sense is also gone. All specific experiences stop. That is deep sleep. Then, so, I am the witness of these specific experiences. And I am the witness of the absence of the specific experiences. So they do not belong to me. If they belong to me, they will always be with me. Notice, they belong to the ego. When the ego is awake, they are awake. When the ego goes to sleep, they go to sleep. They mean all experiences. Then what am I? I am ever awake, Nitya Jnana. I am ever shining. The ego cannot claim to be ever shining. Ego is sometimes shining in waking state, sometimes dimly shining in the dream state, sometimes not shining at all. But I am ever shining. Therefore, I am not the ego. I am the witness of the ego and its states and its experiences. This witness is Brahman. So I am Brahman. He is making it clear that the self is not the ego. Self is this witness consciousness. Number 13. Shadvikara Veta. Shadvikara Veta. Nirvikaro hamanyatha. Nirvikaro hamanyatha. Tadvikaranu sandhanam. tadvikarānusandhānam sarvatha navakalpate. Sarvatha navakalpate. Shadvikāravatam. Okay. The translation is, I who change not am the knower of the 6 states of change. Otherwise, the awareness of the change is quite inconceivable. So the question here might be, but the self undergoes birth and aging and death. Everybody, we say, I am born, or I age, or I die. So how can it be this unchanging thing? He said, no, you have to be, the self has to be unchanging. Unchanging knower. Otherwise, how would these changes be known? If the self is also changing along with the changing body mind, then how would they be known? See, it's like this. If the subject, the self, is born, changes along with the object. Object means body mind. In that case, the first subject would know the first object. As the object changed, the subject also would change. No subject would be able to claim, I know the first state of the body, second state of the body, third state of the body. Because each subject would know that particular state of the body to which it is associated. So what are the 6 changes? I mentioned it earlier also. Asti. Asti. That means exists. Conceived, And then jayate, physically born. Then vardhate, the child grows. Then viparinamate, it matures, it reaches a peak. And then apakshiyate, it begins to degenerate, the body begins to degenerate and deteriorate. Then nashyati, destroy. 6 changes. So these 6 changes are known by the unchanging self, or illumined by the unchanging self. Of course, known when you say, it needs the mind also to operate the mind and then pass it out. Oh, I remember with the help of the memory and the mind my childhood days, how wonderful they were. Then I remember my youth and so on. If you are remembering your past too much, then you are old. If you are looking forward to the future, then you are young. Have you seen, I've seen the little kids, little boys and girls, if you ask them, so how old are you? A kid would say, I am nearly 6. I'm nearly 7. Which grade are you in? I am in grade 6. Somebody, the mother would say, he's going to grade 6 this year. Never what is there right now, what's just next, So eager to grow up, and by the time the same kid is 21 years old, the kid will never say that I'm nearly 22. Or lose all interest in forward movement. And 21. And by the time it's 51, you say, let me stop at 51 for a few years. Relax for a few years. So, Shadvikāravatam Vetta, Nirvikāro Aham, I am unchanging, the illuminer of the 6-fold changes. Otherwise, Anyatha. Otherwise, Tadvikāra Anusandhānam, the recognition or the experience of those changes would be impossible. Otherwise, each change will be illumined by that knower only. And that knower will go and the change will also go. And then will be separate knower. So this is actually an attack on the Buddhist theory of momentary consciousness, Kshanika Vijnanavada. That's what he is fighting against here. Number 14. The same argument continues. Tena tena hi rupena, tena tena hi rupena, jayate liyate moho, jayate liyate moho, vikari vastunas desham, vikari vastunas desham, anusandhatrita kutaha, anusandhatrita kutaha. The form of a thing subject to modification comes into being and dissolves every moment. How can such a thing itself be aware of such changes? This is clearly a reference to the Buddhist theory of momentary consciousness. The Buddhists say this idea you have of a continuously changing world, changing body and changing mind and illumined by an unchanging consciousness. This is not correct. You are being fooled. It's an illusion. It is right. Every moment your mind, the entity is changing. The mind is changing. And each moment of change brings along with it its own consciousness. So consciousness is born and dying. And the contents which consciousness is aware of are also rising and falling with it. But then why do we seem to be similar? The next moment of existence is similar to the earlier one. That's why there seems to be a sense of continuity. But this sense of continuity is just that. It's a sense of continuity. It's not really continuous. So it's arising and it's like flashing, like a flashing light. It's not one continuous light. What they are basically arguing is, you are saying consciousness illumines all these changes, right? But what we are saying, the Buddhists are saying is, consciousness itself changes along with these changes. As the body and mind appear, consciousness appears along with it. The body and mind disappear next moment, consciousness disappears with it. And then again, very next moment, the next body and mind appear. So the body is a series of flashing changes. The mind is a series of flashing changes. And consciousness, which reveals mind and body, flashes along with it. They call it Kshanika Vijnanadhara, a series of momentary consciousness. In literature, the phrase stream of consciousness, which came in late 19th century, 20th century, I think. And that sort of, it's not related to Buddhism, or it might be, but this is what the Buddhists were driving at. And this is what he is saying, that it's not true. If it were true, then who would know the entire series? See, one thing I'm avoiding here, Anusandhanam, the word is coming again and again. You will find Tejomanji is translated as memory. And it does mean memory. But I don't want to bring in the memory argument. That I think unnecessarily complicates it. Memory immediately depend upon the mind. This is also changing actually. What the Buddhists will immediately say, each memory, it's a false memory, but it's provided to consciousness at each instant. It seems to remember, I am the same one, but that's false. It's continuously changing. There are faults with that theory also. For example, one fault is what he's pointing out. In that case, you would not know all these changes. And he will develop it, make it very sharp in the next verse. And the memory argument would work this way. I remember my childhood and my youth and my middle age. Now if I remember all of that, I am the same one who experienced childhood, youth and middle age. The Buddhist will say that's false. In that case, the argument would be that memory itself is false. Are we willing to accept that big claim then? The Buddhist is willing to bite it. The testimony of memory is wrong. We say that but memory is accepted as valid, as reliable. There is memory which is reliably reporting what happened in the past, and of course unreliable memory. But if you accept the Buddhist theory, then all memory becomes unreliable. It's just illusory. And more serious problem. If consciousness is flashing, each body is a series of discrete flashes, body-mind, and being revealed by flashes of consciousness. In that case, if these are discrete flashes, then they must have beginnings and ends. It has a beginning, it has existence and an end. So clearly it's not one moment, it's at least 3 moments. One moment, second moment, third moment. So the consciousness must persist through those 3 moments, or will you say that consciousness is separate from the moment of birth, separate from the moment of existence, separate from the moment of death? That's very weird. And even worse, if these are discrete flashes of consciousness, what about the gap between consciousness? The gap between each moment. Moment to moment you're flashing. With one moment and another moment, there must be a stop. If there is no stop, then it's continuous consciousness. If there is a gap in consciousness, as you are suggesting, flashes of consciousness, between every flash there must be blank. But how is the blank known then? You say blank, let the blank be unknown. If it is unknown, why speak of a blank? How did you even know there is a blank? Then it will become continuous consciousness. In either case, it will become continuous consciousness. Now, he is going to make it quite sharp, this argument hitting at the Buddhist. Remember what the argument was. If consciousness is not continuous, it will not know the changes. And he will demonstrate with utter clarity what he means here. 15th verse. Nacha swajanmana shangva Nacha swajanmana shangva Drashtum arhati kaschana Drashtum arhati kaschana Tauhi praguttara bhava Tauhi praguttara bhava Charama prathamakshano Charama prathamakshano. No one is able to see their own birth or death, for birth is the non-existence at the last moment of the previous life, and death is the non-existence before the first moment of the next life. Very nice move. To understand this, we must understand a little bit of Nyaya. You know, according to one classification, there are 6 orthodox schools of philosophy in India. Or if you include all kinds of philosophy, 12 schools. The 6 orthodox schools and 6 heterodox schools. The 6 orthodox schools are the Hindu schools, and the 6 non-Hindu schools are called the heterodox schools. How do you differentiate? The ones which accept the Vedas as sources of spiritual knowledge, Sanskrit Pramana, they are called orthodox, Astika. And those which reject the Vedas as sources of spiritual knowledge, they are called heterodox, unorthodox, Nastika, in Sanskrit. What are the orthodox schools? Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Purva Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa. So what about Vedanta? Vedanta is with Uttara Mimamsa, the last one. They all specialize in different things. The Nyaya school specialized in epistemology, logic specially, reasoning. The Vaisheshika school specialized in metaphysics, description of the world. The Sankhya school specialized in conscious and non-conscious. They are the ones who came up with the idea of pure consciousness, or the philosophy of pure consciousness. These ideas are all drawn from the Vedas. Then the Yoga school specialized in meditation. Yoga, of course, is a general term, but it's also a specific school of philosophy. The Yoga school specialized in meditation. The Purva Mimamsa school specialized in hermeneutics, that is how to interpret Vedic texts. Hermeneutics means the techniques of textual interpretation. How do you take the meaning? See, the author is there, you can ask, what did you mean by this? But if the author is not available, how will you get the meaning out? Certain rules are there. They were developed. They were originally developed to find out the meanings of the Vedic texts, because they can apply them to any text. So those are the Purva Mimamsakas. They are great ritualists. They are masters of the ritualistic portion of the Veda called Karma Kanda. And finally, our school, Vedanta. Of course, our school is one kind of Vedanta. There are multiple kinds of Vedanta. But Vedanta is specialized in the later portion of the Vedas, the knowledge portion of the Vedas, the Upanishads, based on the Upanishads. So these are the 6 schools. Among them, as I said, the Nyaya school specialized in logic. A lot of the reasoning used by other schools, including the Buddhists and others, they're all developed by the Nyaya, or in debate between the Nyayikas and other schools. The rules of debate were also developed by the Nyayikas, Nyaya school. Now I want to focus down on one thing that the Nyayikas came up with. They analyzed everything to bits. There's very precise, sharp analysis of everything. One of the things they analyzed was nothing. What is nothing? Books and books were written on nothing. I attended 3 courses on advanced Nyaya. The Nyaya school has 2 schools. One is the old school called Prachina Nyaya, which continued for about 2,000–3,000 years maybe. And what is the new school? The new school in India, of course, is there's a new school in Manhattan, well-known university. So there's a new school of Nyaya called the Neologic, but everything new in India is also pretty old. So Neologic is about 1,000 years old. The new school, it's so sophisticated. Navya Nyaya, the new school of logic, so sophisticated that until the development of modern mathematical logic and symbolic logic, it was the most powerful and intricate system of logic available to humanity. I have studied Greek logic also, Aristotelian logic. It's child's play compared to this Navya Nyaya, which was developed in the eastern part of India, mainly first in Mithila, Bihar, and then transferred to Navadvipa in Bengal. The great Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was a scholar of Navya Nyaya before he became a Bhakta, a devotee of Krishna, and so on. More focus. The course that I did on neologic, one of the courses for 15 days, we talked about nothing. 5 hours a day. The subject was just nothing. In Sanskrit, nothing is called abhava, absence. Abhava, absence. And one way the Nayayikas analyzed absence is that there are 4 kinds of nothing. 4 kinds of absence. So, there is the absence before a thing was created. So before the pot was made, there is the absence of the pot. This is called prior absence. The absence before it was created. Before you were born, there was your absence. And that absence comes to an end when you are born. The pot's absence, prior absence, comes to an end when the pot is born, when pot is created. So the prior absence is beginningless. When did that absence of the pot start? Beginningless time. There is no beginning of that, but it has an end. Anadi sa anta. Beginningless, but with an end. When is the pot's prior absence coming to an end? When the pot is created. And there is posterior absence. Posterior absence is the absence after destruction or death. The destruction, the absence after death, somebody dies or the pot is broken. Now the pot is no longer there. So that posterior absence begins when the moment the pot is broken. And when will it end? It will never end. It has a beginning, sa adi ananta. It never ends. So suppose you make the pot again, there will be a new pot. It won't be that pot. So there are 2 kinds of absence. One is called prag abhava, prior absence, before creation, before production, before birth. Then there is another one called the dhamsa abhava, the absence after destruction, after death, after cessation. And then there are 2 more kinds of absence which need not concern us, but just for completion, there is one called atyanta abhava, complete absence. So right now, here there is no elephant in the room. It's not that elephant is going to be born, not that elephant died, it's just there is no elephant in the room. So there is an absence of the elephant in the room. Gaja abhava, that is atyanta abhava, complete absence. And there is a 4th kind of absence called mutual absence. So the horse and the cow. In the cow there is an absence of horseness, and in the horse there is an absence of cowness. Mutually there is absence. This is called anyonya bhava, mutual absence. You know what is actually mutual absence? It's just a fancy way of saying cow and horse are different. The cow and the horse are different. Why? Because the horse is not a cow, the cow is not a horse. How do you put that in technical language? In the cow you detect an absence of horseness, and in the horse you detect an absence of cowness. So, that's mutual absence. But what concerns us here is the absence before birth, prag abhava, anterior absence or prior absence, and the absence after destruction, after death, dhamsa abhava. Now, when does, what is birth? It's the last moment of prior absence. Prag abhava charama kshana, charama final, kshana, moment. The final moment of prior absence is called birth. That's how the Nayayikas, the logicians will put it. So what was the final moment of your prior absence? He's asking your birthday. What was the final moment of your prior absence? Your prag abhava charama kshana. That's your birthday. And what's death? It's the first moment of your posterior absence. So, prathama kshana, dhamsa bhava prathama kshana. Okay. Now, so this is ready. This is the This is the instrumentation, the equipment is going to bring into play, the arsenal. Now he's going to deploy it and see the explosion that happens. He's going to blow up the Buddhist camp. So he says, if you, O Buddhist, you say each change is witnessed by the consciousness there. And the consciousness also changes, and it witnesses those changes. Consciousness continuously changes and keeps witnessing those changes. What are the changes? One change, for example, is birth. But what is birth? It's the final moment of the prior absence. Can consciousness witness its own birth? Consciousness was not there, it is born now. But you are saying consciousness witnesses its own changes. So consciousness witnessed its own change. That means consciousness would have to be the witness of the last moment of its own absence. The non-existing consciousness will witness the last moment of its non-existence. What non-existence? Prior non-existence. Can consciousness witness its own death? In that case, you would have to be the witness of the first moment of your non-existence. You do not exist and you have to witness that non-existence. The absent consciousness will have to witness the last moment of its prior absence. The absent consciousness will have to witness the first moment of its posterior absence. Absent, non-existing consciousness will witness. How? I'll explain this again. Yeah, so this one. Yes. Nyaya is supposed to make things clearer, but it ends up making. What are they talking about? Posterior absence. So, what is birth? What is birth? It's the last moment of your non-existence. Which non-existence? The prior non-existence. The non-existence which was, your non-existence was there until the moment you were born. So, that moment of your birth, according to definition, you still are not born, but it's the moment of your birth. Next moment you will be there. Earlier moment you are not there. And that final conclusion of that absence is birth. But you are absent, and you are witnessing your absence. What was the Buddhist saying? Consciousness changes, keeps changing. The self keeps changing, consciousness keeps changing, and keeps on witnessing changes also. What is the change? Birth. Whose birth? Consciousness's birth. According to Buddhist, consciousness must be born. Each moment to moment you are saying it's being born. So let it be born. And who witnesses that birth? According to you, the changing consciousness will witness the change. What is the change? Birth. What will witness? Consciousness. What consciousness? It's absent. It's not there yet. How will it witness? No one can witness their own birth. So we can. In one sense we have. So consciousness has witnessed the birth of the body. But consciousness never witnesses its own birth. It cannot. Because the moment it has to witness its birth, it's the flash when it's created. It was non-existent. That moment of transition, if you have to witness, you have to go from non-existence to existence. And that transition has to be witnessed by consciousness. How can it? It did not exist. Similarly, consciousness cannot witness its own death. If it witnessed its own death, what is death? The first moment of posterior non-existence. Dvamsa bhava pratamakshana. How will it witness? It's gone. It cannot witness. Its own going away it has to witness. It's existing, witnessing itself, then it's gone. Who will witness that? Therefore, there are at least two changes that consciousness cannot witness. Its own birth and its own death. From its own perspective, then it must be immortal. Right? What to speak of are the minor changes happening in the existence, during this existence. So, consciousness cannot be a changing entity. This non-changing consciousness is what we call Brahman, and I am that, so I am Brahman. Think about it, it will give you a headache. So if you do not witness your own birth, creation, and you cannot witness your own death, then there is no question of birth and death for you. You cannot witness your own beginning. It seems counterintuitive. Something begins, but consciousness cannot witness its own beginning. Consciousness cannot witness its own end. Because when it began, it did not exist. What will it do? Who will witness? When it ended, it does not exist anymore. Who will witness? So that both are not possible. Then consciousness cannot witness the two changes called birth and death. So it is continuous. It's not born, it does not die. Clearly, birth and death are witness of the body, of the mind, not of consciousness. Technically, he's proving. Technically, consciousness, if consciousness is the witness of all changes, it itself cannot change. This changeless consciousness is what we call Brahman. Therefore, I am. So we deployed a little bit of Nyaya here to track the Buddhist. Alright. This is just ABCD. This is just Nyaya is just ABCD. They subject everything to argument. You know how we started this book? By saluting Anantananda Krishna, I salute Guru and God and Brahman. That one who sips up my ocean of delusion. So every text starts with that, not Nyaya texts. When Nyaya text starts with the Mangalacharana, it starts with invocation to the deity, but the first thing they do is, why? Why will you salute the deity? And then the answer will be that completion of the text without any obstacles. So that I can complete the text without any obstacles. Nirvigna grantha samaptyartham. Complete the text. I pray to the Lord so that I can complete the text without any obstacles. That's why we are doing a invocation to the Lord. Immediately the Nayayika will ask, but there are so many cases of books which are without any invocation have been nicely completed. Look at the library. And there are so many cases of books with invocation which have not been completed. Go to the manuscript library, there are half-written books. So you have clearly invocation not necessary for completion, and with invocation also no completion. Both cases. Explain. Then the answer will come. See, this is how they argue. In the case of the invocation which they did, and the book was not completed, they didn't do enough invocation because the obstacles were allowed. And in the case of book was completed without invocation, then they had done invocation in their past lives. Then the argument will come. Will say that this is silly. You surely cannot believe such stuff. They actually say this. And what's the final conclusion? They come to a conclusion also. What's the actual point of invocation? What conclusion do they come to? They say it's cultural. You do it, they say, Shishya Shikshartham, Shishtacharacha. For first of all, Shishtachara means the behavior of cultured people. If you are civilized, cultured, this is part of your culture. That's why you salute God before the beginning of any practice or study of a text, for example. And for what it, then the question they will ask, so do it mentally, why is it chanted? This is for the teaching of the students. If you don't chant it, the students won't learn. Like this, they argue. This is just beginning, the 4 kinds of absence. They consider, there are pages and pages, actually books written on, is the absence of an absence a new absence or a presence? Abhava, is a new abhava or a bhava? Absence of absence is new absence or a presence. There are 2 schools of thought on this one. I remember the Pandit who taught us 5 hours a day of nothing. Very difficult texts. One of them is one of them was actually translated into English. It's part of the Harvard Oriental series. Gangeshas, Abhavavada, philosophy of nothing. Written about 800 years ago. Very difficult Sanskrit. Translated into English, published at Harvard University. Professor Bimal Krishna Makila was at Harvard at that time in the 1950s or 60s. So the professor who teaches Indian philosophy at Harvard, Professor Parimal Patil, he told me, we have preserved the table and chair in which he worked when translating this text. We saved it, it's still there. So people who do Indian philosophy look at it reverentially. You can go and sit in their chair also. So it's all about nothing. And the Pandit who taught us, it was a course held in the Asiatic Society in Calcutta. The Pandit who taught us reveled in it on nothing for 5 hours a day, for 15 days. And he had one example which would come and meticulously write down on the board in chalk. The example would be, Bhutale ghato nasti. There is no pot on the table or on the surface. There is no pot on the surface. And there was this guy who looked after the facilities, like a guy who looked after the hall and the equipment and all, member of the staff. I was the only monk among the students. So this guy came up to me, maybe he felt comfortable talking to me. Others were all professors or grad students. So he came up to me and he said, look, if you want a pot, I can get it. He felt responsible. I am in charge of this hall and maintain everything. And here is these guys, they're coming every day, they crimp and complain about there's no pot. He said, it's cheap, I can get it. Alright. A few questions now, and then we will go for dinner and come back and have a prolonged, more intense Q&A session. Yes, I'll come to you. Gentlemen in the back, yes. Yeah, mic is better because it helps the record.
My name is Ramna. So I'm referring back to the diagram of...
Speak in the microphone. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm referring back to the diagram of there. It seems to me, I'm sure I'm wrong, but please point it out. Existence, consciousness, bliss, that part, right? Seems like bliss is not required to understand and follow all the verses till now. So where am I?
Yes, and yet it is required. Remember, the whole point of this enterprise, to overcome suffering, to attain fulfillment, and that's bliss. What's the point of it all? See, look at it this way. The three greatest questions in philosophy are, what is real? That part of philosophy which studies what is real is called metaphysics. Now there is a fancy new name, ontology. Ontos means being. So ontology is that part of philosophy which studies what is real. Is the world real? Are atoms and all these things are real? Are thoughts real? Is God real? This is ontology. This is one major field of philosophy. But immediately the question arises, how do you know? How do you know these things? So there is the study of knowledge, how we know. That's called epistemology. And then there is finally another branch of philosophy. It used to be a number of branches, like ethics, what is good, what is right, what is wrong. It used to be aesthetics, what is beautiful, what is desirable and beautiful. Now they have all been combined into one field called axiology. Axiology, the study of values. Right, wrong, beautiful, all of that, everything is combined into axiology. So these are three questions, three questions and three fields of philosophy. What is real? How do you know? And what's the point of it? What's good? What's right? What's beautiful? What's desirable? What's the point of it all? And the answers to these questions are debated in the fields called ontology, epistemology, axiology. You can see where I'm leading with this. The answers to these three questions are Sat, Chit, Ananda, from a Vedantic perspective. What is real? Being is real, existence, Sat. How do we know anything? Chit, consciousness. And what's the point of it all? What's good? What's valuable? What's the goal of everything? Ananda, bliss. Love, bliss, joy, fulfillment, peace, all of that. Another point here, just one point. Another point here. This very limitless existence consciousness is Ananda, bliss. I'll repeat. The very limitlessness of existence consciousness is bliss. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Brahman is limitless existence consciousness. Where is Ananda here? That Anantam, limitlessness, is Ananda. In Chandogya Upanishad it is said, Yo vai bhuma tat sukham, nalpe sukham asti. There is no happiness in the limited, no fulfillment, no stopping in the limited. That which is limitless is happiness. That which is limitless is joy. Yo vai bhuma, bhuma means the vast. The vast alone is joy. In the limited there is no happiness. We think there is happiness, but very soon it will not be enough. Notice, whatever it is, wealth, wealth, knowledge, fame, beauty, whatever it is, how much ever you have, nobody's happy. It's not enough. It's not enough. I joke sometimes that I lived in 3 interesting places in the United States: Hollywood, Manhattan, and in Harvard, in Boston. And in each place, the definition of success is different. In Hollywood, it's glamour. Which movie you're part of, or which movie stars you know, and whatnot. Something that has to be related to the movie industry. That's real success in Hollywood. And in Manhattan, real success is not fame. How much money do you have? See, it's very interesting. In Hollywood, they'll take you on a tour and they point out the stars. Star means not those stars. The stars, this is the house, this is where such and such movie star is. They'll point to their actual tours. In Manhattan, I remember once we were driving past and the driver pointed out, look, Swami, that building, only billionaires stay in that building. See, money. Money. And in Harvard, it's knowledge. Are you the top of the food chain in your department? And are your books prescribed? Are you the head of the department? At the very top of the food chain, are you a Nobel Prize winner, Nobel laureate, and so on? That's important there. Not so much money or glamour. Nobody tries to be glamorous. People would sneer at you if you try to, very glamorous, and if you project your image and build up your brand. They do that, but in more sophisticated ways. And so these are, but nowhere it is enough. Nowhere it is enough. Nowhere people are happy. It's not that everybody is unhappy in Hollywood, Manhattan, and at Harvard. No, people are happy. But I've noticed people who are happy, they have some kind of either a high ethical or spiritual level. Then only there is some happiness, some fulfillment. Otherwise not. So, Ananda, this fulfillment, will not come with limited things. Only by unlimited existence, unlimited consciousness, awareness is happiness. If I complete that passage in the Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahma vidapnoti param, the knower of Brahman attains the highest. What is the highest? What do you get out of all of this? So ashnute sarvan kaman sah brahmana vipaschiteti. The enlightened one attains the fulfillment of all desires. Fulfillment of all desires. I can see smiles coming up now. Like all your wish list, Christmas list delivered to your door immediately at once? No, not that. But what we want by all this money, glamour, knowledge, what we want, that fulfillment comes when you realize yourself as Brahman. So, Ananda. Ananda is not, it's not that it's not necessary. It is what is necessary. And all of this is on the way to Ananda.
Now, there is one more English comment.
Yeah. Microphone.
Yes, I understand. Okay, I understand the limitedness that you're talking, that is Ananda.
Yeah.
Because we need infinity. Because there is no ultimate satisfaction of joy
in
limited. However, how I understand this as, this is the ultimate observer, right?
Yes.
Do I really care? I'm taking a massive jump of faith here, right? Do I really care about happiness then?
What drives you to that, whether you care about it or not, it's yours. Whether you care about it or not. You are right, you would not care about what we consider to be happiness in this world. That would become more and more irrelevant. Just as the little baby's objects of happiness become completely irrelevant to you, other to the baby, as he or she grows up. Similarly, when we grow to that level, all these little achievements, they are like pebbles for us, like babies playing. It's of no interest at all as we reach that maturity. And that we don't have to go through that level. Even in human life, you see, the great scientists, artists, philosophers, they don't really care too much about wealth or appearance or fame. They don't, the real ones. They've got something even higher than that. the source of that joy. And spirituality is even higher. Yes. And I'll take the question from, those three gentlemen and then stop because I have to go for dinner.
Namaste, Swami. So my question is the follow-up, and I think it will be very quick. So you talk about fulfillment and anand, joy. Aren't there two different distinctions? I mean, again, I'm interpreting them from a materialistic point. Fulfillment is for me different, and the follow-up is that as Brahman, you are formless, you are limitless. So attaching these attributes is meaningless once you have achieved that. Maybe towards that.
True,
there's a good motivation.
Yes. The fulfillment, ananda, the happiness distinctions you can draw, but they are all ultimately, variations on the same theme. That's what we are seeking. Sean Carroll, he is a scientist at Caltech.
Yeah.
So he wrote this book, The Big Picture, and other books also. Recently he's written a book called Something Deeply Hidden. So anyway, very nice person, but an atheist. And I enjoyed that book. And at the end, however, he talks about consciousness, and there I was disappointed. He's a complete reductionist there. And it follows very interestingly. Consciousness is reduced to brain, and he says, people say the goal of life is seeking happiness, but my goal is not seeking happiness. I have certain questions in physics which I need to be answered. Whether I'm happy or unhappy, I want that. That is not a wise observation. Because simple question you could ask is, Professor, if you solve those questions or you got good answers to those questions, would you be happy or unhappy? You'll be happy. It's not that the more and more you know in physics, more and more unhappy you become. You're not chasing unhappiness, you're chasing happiness. But these are the different ways in which we are chasing. And would it make any sense to apply the attribute of happiness to Brahman? Notice, happiness is not an attribute. We'll come to that later. Satchidananda, finally he will give you the parting note on each of them. It's not what you think it is. Just as Sat, being, is not existing things. This is an existing thing. This is an existing thing. Even the mind is an existing thing. But Sat is not an existing thing. So is it non-existence? No. It is that which appears as existing things. Based on which things exist. Like the gold in all the ornaments. The gold is not an ornament. But without the gold, no ornaments. No golden ornaments are possible. Without existence, Sat, no existing thing is possible. Okay. Chit, consciousness. Notice how we have distinguished Chit from all Vijnana Virati, he says. In deep sleep, all conscious activities, what we call thinking, hearing, cognitive activity, feeling, emotion, all of that ceases. And consciousness continues according to Vedanta. So this consciousness is not cognitive activity, or brain activity, or intellectual activity. That's not consciousness. But consciousness powers all of them, illumines all of them. So it's not a conscious thought. Thinking is not pure consciousness, but it's that which illumines all thinking. Similarly, Ananda is not a particular kind of pleasure. It's that which appears as all kinds of pleasure. These are not attributes of the answer which if you ask a traditional Advaitic, if you say this, are these attributes of Brahman, happiness, existence, knowledge. You say they are not attributes of Brahman, they are Brahman. Vivekananda put it this way, not that it exists, it is existence itself. Not that it is conscious, or not that it knows, it is knowledge itself. Not that Brahman is happy, it is happiness itself. What it means by happiness, that we have to understand. Alright.
Pranam Swamiji. So my question is on, actually it's more of an observation, I would like your clarification on the 13th and 14th verses and continuity of the consciousness. So consciousness is not an experience or a knower, it's just a witness.
Yeah, it's just an illuminer,
It's
light is light.
It's illuminer. But what is witness, what is experiencing all the change that we go through is the reflected consciousness.
Yes.
So what is keeping the memory or the anusandhana, as was stated in both of them,
Yes.
is the mirror that is changing with time.
Yes.
And that is what is reflecting the reflected consciousness that keeps the state of
Yes.
continuity.
Yes.
Is that the way to understand it?
Yes. And that is actually what the verse means, what you are saying. I avoided that, as you see. The reason is because memory is entirely the level of the mind. Once you bring in a memory argument, it becomes complicated. It's easy to cut down. That's why anusandhana, it's memory. One meaning is memory. Another meaning is just knowing or illuminating. So you see Atmarupanji is translated as illuminating. Tejamanji is translated as memory. But then you see, when you actually see the explanation given by Tejamanji, he does not take the memory track. He takes the knowledge track. Right. Kashmiri Shaivites use memory to great effect to show the continuity of Shiva. But these arguments are vulnerable to counter-attack. So when you play a move in chess, you must also be very aware of what the opponent will do. If you make a false move, then when the opponent cuts you down, you're finished. Alright, last question. Gentleman here. We'll continue this after dinner.
Swamiji, I have a very, very simple question.
Good.
What is the need of existence? If there is no existence, there is no need for consciousness.
This is a big question. Suppose there was no existence at all, then obviously there wouldn't be any consciousness, because consciousness would be non-existent, there would be everything would be non-existent. If there is no existence at all, just nothing. Now, this has been dealt very nicely in Vedanta and Nyaya also. I'll give you the Nyaya answer, since we discussed Nyaya. What you are saying is a universal non-existence. Universal non-existence, that's what you're saying. It could have been nothing. Just nothing, total nothing. But in Nyaya, the way the Nyayikas think, it cannot be universal non-existence. Because every absence, non-existence or absence, in Nyaya, this is a technical point. Every absence has a counterpart, what do they call a counter positive? What do they call? Pratiyogi in Sanskrit. What it means is this, pretty simple. When you say doesn't exist, immediately your question is what doesn't exist and where does it not exist? Notice the sentence, there is no pot on the table. What is not there? Pot is not there. Where is the pot not there? On the table. It's in the market. That guy knew, I can bring it from the market. So, the moment you say something is absent, you must say where is it absent and what is absent. The moment you say everything is absent, everything is implied by that. At least the concept of everything is implied there. But if nothing is there, how could even there be a concept of everything? When you say nothing exists, people don't exist, planets don't exist, stars don't exist, quarks don't exist, space doesn't exist, time doesn't exist, you're already thinking of time, space, quarks, stars. If totally nothing was there forever and ever, see even language in time. So, in the Nyaya way of thinking, non-existence implies the existence of those things somewhere else, in some other condition. So, total non-existence they cannot permit. Because the very term non-existence is dependent on asking these questions. What is non-existing and where is it non-existing? Okay. Then, the other thing I want to add, two more things. The Vedantic approach is even deeper. Things which exist may not exist. This is what is called contingent existence. That table, chair may not be there. It's not necessary that the chair is there. It can be removed. A particular person may or may not attend the retreat, may not turn up, so absent here. But is it possible for existence not to exist? Being itself to be non-being? It's a very, very profound and difficult question.
But can Brahman go into latent state?
Brahman does not go into states. What goes into states is Maya. Latent state of Maya, Sushupti, deep sleep, or the cessation of the universe, Pralaya. And then again creation. Anything that goes into a latent state will again become active at some time.
But can it do
Let me finish. So, consider this question. Pure being, such existence itself, can it ever be non-existent? Difficult to conceive of that. Finally, I'd suggest this book, which is an answer to your question. Why does the world exist? Jim Holt. He's a science reporter in New York. He's written this book. I really loved it. What he does there is, he goes to the top scientists in the world, including Sir Roger Penrose and others, top physicists living in the world today, top mathematicians, asks from their perspective, what is existence? Why does this universe exist at all? Could there be nothing? He asks scientists, he asks mathematicians, he asks this computer science people, AI people, he asks philosophers, he asks theologians. Can there be nothing at all? What is existence? And can there be nothing at all? And there you get in that book some of the most cutting-edge thought in particle physics, in cosmology, in advanced mathematics, pure mathematics, in computer science, in philosophy, in religion, in literature. And he just presents all of that, whatever he learned from all these leading people. So it's just a tour of existence. Why does anything exist at all? That's the big question. Why do particular things exist? Science will answer that. Why does the earth exist? Science will give an answer. But why does anything at all exist? Big question. Good. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna